What's up, guys? This is Dylan.
And I'm Lydia.
And we're here for Broken Pictures. That website is www.broken.pictures.com. And thanks for tuning in to our YouTube channel. We're going to talk about Westworld Season 2, Episode 3. A lot of things happened in this one. There was some different directions, some interesting stuff. So let's get into it. Start out with a lady named Grace in a park that is completely different from what we've seen before. It takes place in India, obviously. Pretty sweet. This is Ghost, by the way. He's just going to hang out here, if you don't mind. Pretty sweet.
If you do, leave.
just tune out. Anyways, pretty sweet version of Seven Nation Army playing in the background. So that was our Easter egg, musical Easter egg in this episode. So she's there and things are pretty normal. She's going about her business, but she seems to be on a mission. And this guy comes up to her who's obviously just hanging out in the park and wants to hook up with her. And she's having nothing to do with it because she wants to make sure that he's not a host. Because she is very adamant about not getting with the host. And even goes to the length of shooting the guy to make sure. And proves that he's not a host. They get down. And then they go on a hunt. And to hunt the Bengal tigers. And which is obviously where the one from episode 1 came from, right? So we find out where the Bengal tiger came from. And so they're on this hunt, and then she notices that things are not right. And she seems to know a lot about the park and has a little notebook that she's checking into. And she knows that things aren't right. Then, of course, one of their guides show up. You know, these violent lights have violent ends. And so apparently that keyword has spread all throughout the Delos destinations. And we're seeing proof of it here in the India park. And there's it's potentially called the Raj or Raj World or something like that. Somebody had decoded one of the things on the website that looked like Raj World or something like that. And I saw somebody had posted a picture that said the Raj, but I don't know if that's an official statement or whatever from HBO or Westworld. So we're not going to call it the Raj just yet, I guess, but apparently it's a thing. So yeah, they run away, and her dude gets killed, and she gets away, and only to be chased by a tiger, the actual Bengal tiger that washes up on the shore, and she reaches the end of Westworld, and we see the tiger can actually cross the borders. So it's not just the human hosts or the humanoid hosts that are rebelling. It's also the animals, which will be interesting because the man in black rides a horse. So is the horse going to rebel against him as well? I just thought about that. But anyways.
Well, he rode the horse.
Yeah, he did. That's true. But I mean, it could potentially happen at some point. And
I guess that means that wolf thing is not.
Yeah. What's up with the wolf?
Because he's just chilling.
Yeah. The wolf hasn't attacked him, but the wolf is a theory thing where, I mean, it keeps showing up at these certain instances and nobody really knows what it means unless it's something to do with Native American symbolism that means like self-awareness or something like that, from what I understand on what they're saying online. So she reaches the cliffside and is followed by the tiger outside of India Raj World, and is attacked by the tiger, and they both fall. Tiger to his death, but apparently he got a good piece of her, because when we see her washed up on the shores of Westworld, she's got a pretty nice claw mark in her, and she's met by the Ghost Nation, who also took Stubbs last season, and we've seen Stubbs free now, but we're not really sure how he got away. So that's yet to be determined. But then we see Maeve and Sizemore and Hector trekking across Westworld, and they're trying to find Maeve's little girl, and
they're also running from Ghost Nation.
They also run into the Ghost Nation, who wants Sizemore specifically. So potentially, is the Ghost Nation playing out something that Ford has set up before his death, where they're going after certain key people? Okay.
My theory is that it's Bernard. I mean, we saw that he's able to like read code to for them to search for certain ones and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's finding all of the humans and trying to save them.
That makes sense, because another theory says that when Bernard was locating Abernathy when they were in the underground bunker with Charlotte, that Bernard also sent all the hosts to a single location, but didn't know that it was the sea, and that's why when he saw them, he was shocked and said that I killed them. So yeah, that's a good theory, where he is potentially sending the Ghost Nation to rescue the humans. That's very interesting, because we also saw in episode 1 when they scalped one of the Ghost Nation tribe members. His last view or whatever was of Dolores shooting him down, saying that not everybody deserves to go to glory or wherever, the Valley Beyond, or all these different places, same place, different names. This one place. So not everybody deserves to go, and is what Dolores says. So could potentially these also not be part of her plan, like the Confederados, and we'll get into that later. So they're tracking across, and then of course Hector tries to intervene and speak to them, and they're determined. So they end up running, and of course they end up finding an underground bunker and go underground, get away, and Sizemore gets them lost because they're out of his comfort zone. He doesn't know where they are, and Maeve is suspicious that he wouldn't know where he is at his own place of business. But apparently it's a very large place, and Sizemore's not been there, even though he writes the story for everybody in Westworld. So they're in a new place, and so then they come under attack, and they're rescued by what's her name? Armistice, who has a new arm, because we saw in the last episode when her and Hector were doing their bit to try to help Maeve get to where she was going. In the last episode of last season, she lost an arm. And so now she's got a new arm, and she looks completely fine. And we see why, because she brings them to Hector and Sylvester. Or not Hector, Felix and Sylvester, who probably repaired her.
I thought it was interesting that her hand was very...
Oh, she did have a robot type hand, didn't she? Yeah.
Yeah, very Mark Hamill instead of, being the white bone type cartilage that we've seen the hosts are built out of. And so I thought that was really odd.
That's a good point. Like maybe they're using spare parts or something.
Yeah, like where did she get it from?
Yeah. Yeah, because that's right. She, was it Sizemore that she threatened with it, or like kind of went in his face with it? Or Hector or Sylvester, one of them. She had them tied up, and then Maeve let them free. And so now she's got her little clan, and they're searching around, and of course they're lost underground, and they find their way up. And also, I keep saying Hector, Sylvester and Felix don't know where they are as well. So that looks like how they end up in Shogun World. We've seen the trailers, the teaser trailers for season 2, that Maeve ends up in Shogun World, which is Park 2, that was revealed before season 2 even started. So they come out of the underground and they rise up and it's snowing, and Sizemore says something about the Klondike narrative. I wonder if that is part of Shogun World or if that's something separate, because then they are attacked by somebody with a katana. So are they officially in Shogun World now, or is somebody from Shogun World crossed park borders like the Bengal? We'll see, because that's how the episode ended. So that's up in the air. We'll have to watch and see. Let us know what you guys think about that. But there's another storyline going on, and that has to do with Dolores and Charlotte and Bernard and Abernathy and Teddy. Lots of stuff going on. So Dolores and her brand new merry group of Confederados arrive at Fort Forlorn Hope. Which is kind of a teaser to what ends up happening there. So they arrive, and she convinces the commander of the army to give her command of his men. And because, the bad guys are coming, the humans are coming, and that the only way they'll survive is to band together. And then she ends up straight up just, using them as cannon fodder to get away and to get out. Anyways.
She used them as a blockade.
Yeah, as a blockade, just straight up lied to them. And and that storyline plays in with Bernard and Charlotte, where we see them still on the run. They're hunting down, after they have left the bunker, they're hunting Abernathy, and they know his location. And they find him, and who is he with? He's with Rebus, who is, I can't remember his name. The guy from The Walking Dead, Simon from Walking Dead. What's his name again? We'll come back.
I'll think of it in a second.
Yeah. Can't remember his name, but he was great in The Walking Dead. So Rebus. He was also, I'm running low on remembering names here. It was from the video game.
Stephen Ogg.
Stephen Ogg was based on the main character of Grand Theft Auto 5 or something like that. Was based on Stephen Ogg. So another great actor. So he's there, and him and his little crew have had their fill of milk, and they're torturing some guests, and he's threatening to let his men have the women and stuff like that. So then Charlotte distracts them, and they all split up to try to find her, and Bernard ambushes him, knocks him out, then reprograms him and makes him a choir boy. And he goes back.
The fastest gunman choir boy.
Yeah. So he goes back, kills his men, and then releases the guests, and they're wondering what the heck is happening. And even chases, where are you going? Let me guide you. It's pretty funny. And that is also lines up with the 2 weeks later timeline from episode 1, where we see his character killed, and he's trying to protect the women and stuff like that. And so now we know why he had a change of heart. So anyways, they get Abernathy, and sure enough, the Confederados show up to make the trade, who Rebus was holding the guests to make the trade for the Confederados because they were paying them or something like that. And so Rebus runs off to help the guests, and they're there with Abernathy, and Abernathy starts glitching, starts singing the Battle Hymn of the Republic or something like that, and he starts shouting. I don't know. He goes off on one, and the Confederados are telling him to shut up, and Charlotte makes her escape, but Bernard is there with Abernathy, and he's also captured. And are you looking it up?
Well, he's saying glory, glory, hallelujah.
Yeah. Which is, I think that's part of the Battle Hymn of the Republic. If it's not, let me know in the comments. I'm sure you'll be ruthless. Right. Yeah, I'm right. Woo!
Which I don't like.
Yeah, we played that like every year in band in junior high and high school. That's why that. Anyways, so Bernard and Abernathy are captured by the Confederados, and where do they bring them but Fort Forlorn Hope, where Dolores and her people are. So she sees Abernathy, and her and Teddy release him, and Bernard gets sent to the back with everybody else. Well, then she figures out that Abernathy is glitching and really plays into the rancher's daughter, Dolores, and is really having a moment of humanity and caring for him, and so she goes and gets Bernard to try to fix him. And so Bernard is messing around in him and finds the code that Charlotte has put in there, and is trying to hack it, and finally gets in, and then is just kind of wowed by what he finds, and we're kind of left out in the dark about what he finds. We've not been told yet what he finds. And so, but the symbol on his screen is very similar to the symbol that Grace had in her book when she was in India Land. So that's very interesting. One of the theories is that Grace is William's daughter, that she's Emily Grace, and she's not friends with William. That she's against William because of her mother's suicide, and that's why she knows so much about the park.
I want to touch on something a little bit. I think that it's very interesting. And I always say that it's very interesting. I find it interesting that Dolores and Maeve, their character plot, everything that they're doing right now is oddly similar, because even though Maeve's daughter isn't real, to put it in Sizemore's words, Maeve still loves her. Mm-hmm. She's still her daughter to her. And for Dolores, who, eyes wide open, she's guns blazing, got all this figured out, that's my father.
Yeah.
Dolores, girl, you ain't got a daddy. Like, why would
Ford was your daddy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that it's very telling that she is not quite there. Like, she is not quite, boom, completely, I'm a robot, because to me, she wouldn't still be feeling that way and still trying to make that connection with him.
Yeah, so there are definitely some lingering programs in their minds where, I mean, if we even see Dolores at the drop of a hat swap from rancher's daughter to Wyatt and back and forth, and that opens up some questions, because when Dolores leaves the Confederados for cannon fodder, and a blockade, basically as a blockade, just uses them up and blocks them out there and everything, Teddy is not happy with this, and she tells Teddy to take Craddock and some of the others to the back and kill them, and you know that all are not going to the valley beyond with them, all are not worthy, and this and that, and sounds very, very cult leaderish, and Teddy, who is now seen, you know, what goes on behind, and is basically making decisions on his own now, decides to let them go. And Dolores sees it, and she's not too happy. So is this the beginning of the end for Teddy? Because we saw in episode 1, it looked like Teddy in the water. He was one of the hosts that had drowned. So the storyline that Teddy had with Wyatt was that he rebelled from Wyatt. So is that going to play out the same way with him and Dolores? I'm curious to see how that's going to happen. What do you guys think? Let us know. Let me see if in my little notes here if there's something I missed. Yeah, so Abernathy's glitching pretty hard. Bernard is also not doing so well himself. He's cracked in the head again by Clementine and dragged to the back. But Charlotte and her crew, who have come in, after she escapes from the Confederado, she meets up with quality assurance or with the QA guys and the little security team, and just kind of takes over and decides to go get Abernathy from Fort Forlorn Hope, and that's what's going on in the front. Charlotte takes a little dune buggy around the back and sends somebody in, and they go grab Abernathy and bring him out, and Bernard just hides. I mean, he's scared, and so they get Abernathy back and they make off with him, and of course Dolores is distracted and gets shot up a few times, and so then of course she's very upset about that. But then, so Charlotte makes off with Abernathy, but then one of the next scenes we see with Charlotte and Bernard is the 2 weeks later timeline. And at this point, they've started gathering forces on the beach, and Bernard was washed up on the beach in episode 1, and we met Carl, another head in the Delos company, who is apparently running this brigade, and they meet up with Charlotte underground, and she apparently hasn't seen Bernard since then, or since they split up and she got Abernathy and everything. But at this point, she's lost Abernathy again because she asks Bernard if he's seen Abernathy, or if he knows what happened to him or where he is, and she seems very suspicious of Bernard. So there's a lot going on, and Lydia even had a theory about the 2 weeks later timeline, because they've said that the incident, and everybody keeps assuming that this is Ford's death, and I think so too, that the incident is Ford's death. But if you want to elaborate on your theory.
I don't think that the incident is when Ford was killed. I think that the incident is something like maybe Dolores got to William's biggest mistake, or the weapon or whatever they got there, and everything that has been hitting the fan, something else hit the fan, and so that's why Q&A came in, that's why Delos came in, that's why the army is there. Like, I think that the incident is not Ford's death. I think that something else happened, and so I think that we're assuming that all of these timelines are crunched here, but in reality they're further apart.
So you're saying the 2 weeks later timeline is even further out. It's not 2 weeks later from after Ford's death.
Right. I think it's even longer.
And that makes sense because they told Charlotte that they wouldn't come for her until they had received Abernathy. But at this point, we had assumed that she had sent Abernathy, but we were just confirmed that she doesn't even know where Abernathy is right now.
Something that I just thought about to debunk the theory that I just had was that whenever what's his name? Carl gets there, and they're walking around talking and everything, and they go to turn Ford over. He's not very decayed. I mean, he's decayed, but like, I wouldn't say longer than 2 weeks. I'm looking up right now, like the stages of decomposition to see. So you can keep going. That's what I'm looking at.
That's pretty interesting. But I mean, that does make a whole lot of sense. Even though the state of decay and everything. There was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember it now. I'll just cut in later when you find it.
12 seconds later.
Oh. So the other thing I was going to say is Bernard, at this point, he's still been hit on the head several times. He's leaking fluid from his ear. He did the little fix where he shoved the needle in his ear and put the brain fluid back in when he was at critical having a critical malfunction. And at the point where they were in the bunker, it said that he was given like 7 some odd hours. But now we're looking at weeks and weeks later. So is this another host that he's embodied? Or is it has he found a solution? So that's another thing to think about, with these timelines, because Bernard is basically slowly dying. So that clock is winding down for him. So there's got to be something in between that kind of pushed that further for him.
A few moments later.
Figure anything out yet?
Eventually.
From kind of what I'm reading here, the 2 to 3 week mark is pretty accurate. So it's very possible that it is the 2 weeks, like they said. It obviously doesn't give, like, on Google, a exact date when maggots and things would start eating a dead body.
Yeah.
And give me the stages of dead bodies.
My sister-in-law's a nurse. Maybe she would know.
She's not a mortician.
I know. I'm just saying. She's in the medical field. Anyways. But that's a good resource for things in the future. Like with what's going on with Bernard. Go back and watch one of our episodes where I talk about, I want to say it might be the episode where I'm talking about what's happened with Bernard and the different things that are happening with him that it said on the screen when they were in the bunker. And that all those things set him up as a super unreliable narrator. So everything we're seeing through his eyes it could not be the same person we're seeing. It could not be the same words that are being used. He's losing use of motor functions. His memories are out of whack.
Things.
Yeah, his memories are out of whack. They're all out of order and jumbled.
Well, I was just saying, like, the doesn't look like anything to me thing. Like, we could be just genuinely not seeing things whenever we're looking through Bernard's eyes.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's it for us. Thanks for tuning in. This is Dylan.
I'm Lydia.
And we're here for Broken Pictures. Don't forget to check out that website, www.broken.pictures. And thanks for tuning in once again. Keep watching Westworld, and we'll try to keep you up to date with different crazy theories going on and what we think, and try to put these different pieces together, because this show is bonkers. It's super confusing, and we all know this. So let's try to get through it together. Peace.